Hello, hello, guys. Welcome. Welcome to Live with Jacqueline Valdez. I am super excited for today's guest. We are talking about Tantra explanation. What is Tantra yoga? And she is huge on pulling through your sexual energy to fuel your spiritual walk. I am so excited and so honored to have her here. So let's welcome Krystal Tantric Yoga. Come on down, beautiful.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing well, doing well. Super excited to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yes, yes, yes. So tell me about your journey. Have you always done tantric yoga, or where did you start? What led you here?
Yeah, definitely haven't always done Tantra or practiced Tantra or yoga.
Yes.
This is such a long journey, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So, so I practiced, well, I was a runner and I was a collegiate track runner and I did some post-collegiate running. So I did some semi-pro running with some Olympians.
Wow.
And during the midst of that, I had also did a yoga teacher training. And I had got into yoga because I was looking for something different to just get involved in, because I had done a lot of intense working out and that's what I was used to, but I felt like my body needed something different. I also had 3 children and my youngest daughter was diagnosed with autism. And I think going through all of that, and just trying to figure out my life, I naturally gravitated towards something different. And I kept running into the word yoga and I saw a yoga class in the gym. I was like, let me try that. I really enjoyed that. So I kind of stuck with yoga a little bit, but then I got back heavy into running. I got injured because of the intense running that I was doing. I had SI joint dysfunction, which is a sacroiliac dysfunction.
Right.
It has to do with the hips, of course. And so I was trying physical therapy. It wasn't working. I was really anxious to run. So I was like, maybe yoga will help me kind of dive a little bit deeper holistically into my health so I can correct whatever's the imbalance of causing the imbalance and I can run again. And so as I got serious about my yoga practice, it started to unlock a lot of things in me subconsciously. So my dreams started to change. And they were somewhat orgasmic, but also very kind of ethereal and mystic, like I'd be floating in space and things like this. So because I had took teacher training, I was aware that there was something deeper energetically going on with that sexual center. And so I just started to explore and ask questions. And because of social media, now I talk to Kundalini teachers and things like that, but they were always scared to talk about the sexual part. That always made them feel very uncomfortable. So I eventually found yoni eggs, which is a very funny story about how I discovered yoni eggs. But I discovered vaginal eggs and thinking maybe if I strengthen my pelvic floor, that will help. And maybe it'll have some kind of energetic healing component that will help me get to back running. And I started to explain to the woman that I bought the vaginal eggs from all the kind of weird stuff that was happening to me in my dreams and all that. And she was like, well, I have a mentor that might be able to help you, like maybe, you could think about contacting him. And I did. And he was able to kind of explain everything that made sense to me. And I was like, I don't know what you teach, but I need to learn it. And he was a Tantra instructor. I didn't know what Tantra really was. So that's how I got into Tantra, and that's also how I got into yoga.
Wow. Wow. That's an incredible story. And I love how you were just really open to letting the universe lead you where you needed to go. And you were taking a really challenging, difficult situation, especially changing your vision of what you were wanting to do into just letting your body really talk to you and you really tuning into it.
Yeah, and I didn't let the running thing go for a while. It took a while for me to accept that this was kind of my journey. So it just happened that like the running thing wasn't going to happen. And as I started to share my practice and like social media was a space for me to share the Tantra stuff. Cause I mean, I was running in the South. I was in Tennessee and all these little kind of blue collar cities because of what my husband did. My ex-husband he's my ex-husband now. But and I was just raising children. I was a soccer mom and I had no space, no friends, no social network to share this stuff with, not even the yoga community, because it was really beyond what they were understood about yoga.
Wow.
So social media was where I shared it, and that's how I started to kind of go viral on some things and garnered a following. And yeah, and so I was like, okay, I guess I have to accept this. This is what the door that's opening for me.
Yeah. And I love that you're such a huge inspiration in being that voice for people who would not be able to find something like that, who are, scared to talk about it because it is not something that is commonly discussed. And you really just let yourself be vulnerable and take what happened to you to grow and help others.
Yeah, no, I think that an organic story is really important, and it's how people learn the most. Because I've read a lot of books and studied under a teacher, and so you throw all this tantric or yoga terminology out there, and people are like, "What?"
Yeah.
But if you say orgasms or not really being connected with your womb or having womb issues or having trouble climaxing or not being confident in the bedroom, then people are like, oh, okay. Then what I try to do is I try to introduce them to the fact that it's not just a physical thing, it's emotional, and there's also spiritual context to a lot of our imbalances when it comes to our sexual energy and our center, and it's divine.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm such a huge believer in energy and the subconscious and, your body talking to you and telling you if there's been certain traumas that you're holding on to and, releasing those traumas. And sometimes it's hard to. I had the last couple of days when I posted your interview that I was going to be doing it. I had one girl message me and said that she has not been able to climax because of trauma she had when she was younger, and she hasn't known what to do. She's gotten toys, she's gotten different things. So she was really interested in our conversation, but she's scared to ask and she doesn't know what to look up.
Right. And that's a large part of the problem is all the shame around our sexuality. And unfortunately, because I was a stay-at-home mom, not necessarily that was my dream or anything, and neither did my husband really want me to do it. But I think I was just divinely led, and our circumstances just made me be like, no, I need to stay home with my kids. Just makes the most sense. And I sacrificed a lot, but what it did is it allowed me the time to kind of really be intuitive and be in a space where I was protected. So I didn't have a lot of just being out and being hurt and a lot of people are sexually traumatized, and I get it now that I'm single. I'm like, okay, I see what's out there, but I was protected in that way. So if something just made sense and the divine or God was guiding me towards something that was unusual, I may have felt uncomfortable, but I didn't have any deep rooted traumatic fears. And so this is why I also feel accountable to share, because there are people that have. And so I feel like it's my responsibility to maybe go the length maybe other people would not feel comfortable going to, and when you have more of a less kind of tainted experience with sexuality, it helps in that way. But yeah, I'm glad that she was interested, but the trouble with the climaxes and stuff, her breakthrough is going to come through when she's able to overcome those fears gradually. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have so much respect for you that you are using your platform to inspire others and to help others. And you've used your struggles and your hardships to, break through and to introduce something that's very spiritual and just very unique.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. No, it was not easy. I had a 21-day intensive with women. I just finished this past month, and I kind of broke down in tears. I was telling them how I was watching Mulan. I just saw the Disney revamp of Mulan, and I really related to her story, feeling alone, or her family doesn't understand what she does, and how she just tried to follow her intuition and little messages from her ancestors to just continue, even though it was beyond what anybody else had seen. Everybody around her did not understand, but at the end, she made a really big contribution to her community. And that journey can get very, very lonely. So yeah, I've had my own doubts about, is this too much? Am I going too far? Like I'm always concerned about my children and how it will affect them. And it's not, I haven't gone through some things that maybe some other people have gone through, but I have my journey, because I'm just learning also as I go, just like everybody else. And it can be tough with such like, this type of work,
Yeah. But it's so important. I wish that it was discussed more. And, the shame to talk about sexuality, to talk about being able to embrace it, to want to improve it, to want to fix it, or to just want to be in touch with your, feminine divine body. It should not be, not okay to do. It's just crazy how society is still having that stigma.
Yeah, and I think the problem is, and this is why, like, not just calling myself a sex therapist is really important, or going back to school, which I might still, but I have my biology degree, but I thought about, should I get a master's as a therapist and all this stuff? But I think the reason why I haven't is because there's a lot of red tape around what you can do when you call yourself a therapist. And also there's not a lot of spiritual context to some of the way people educate people on sex. And you really need a spiritual context to really feel like you're sacred in that area. Like if you don't know how your sexuality connects to your divinity or makes you closer to God or makes you a better person, then it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for people to say, yeah, it's okay. Like some people can be okay with, yeah, it's liberation and I'm cool and I love my whole self. But some people need something a little deeper to know that, yes, this is really a divine aspect of who we are. And you really don't know that until you experience that. And Tantra is a lot about that. And so I'm always trying to work to create experience for people when they're open enough to see their sexuality as sacred and divine. And when you can experience that in some form or fashion, then you have no doubt about, fearing yourself, the deepest parts of yourself. It really helps.
Yeah, I love that so much. It really opens you up. And I teach pole dancing, and there's a stigma with that. And, empowering others with their own being is such a huge, beautiful thing to witness and to be a part of and to change lives.
Absolutely. And it's disempowering for us to think that a part of ourselves that is so natural to who we are is somehow nasty or tainted or uncontrollable or is going to get us hurt or shamed. To think that you constantly have to fight with a certain part of yourself or keep hidden is extremely disempowering, and it prevents you, especially for women, I think men as well, but especially for women, we lose our voice. It affects so many other areas of our lives because we feel like we have to constantly dim who we are. And sensuality, we are like the embodiment because we are feminine physically. So we are the embodiment of sensuality naturally. And so when we are constantly trying to live in kind of a very linear masculine world, it works against us. It doesn't work for us a lot of the times. I know some women are naturally very masculine and that might be okay, but for a lot of us women, it just does not work well. And so when we're trying to structure our lives and trying to create the lives we really want, it's double the work because we can't even embody our sensuality and take our strengths to work for us instead of having to constantly work against them and adapt to a society that doesn't even really value us as much.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's crazy because this last year, I've really realized that in relationships with my partner, I have a lot of masculine energy, and I am working on trying to go back to my feminine energy with that and just, letting it be and letting the control go and just embracing and letting my full self come out. Because I feel like you said, you don't want to put yourself in a box or dim yourself.
Yeah, and also I think, unfortunately, we live in a society, again, that doesn't really value the feminine aspect of anything. So like that's psychology, that's intuition, that's anything that's a feeling or, abstract thoughts or art or creativity is always seen, second to money and numbers and structure and logic. And, it always seems to come second or valued second to that. And so we're constantly practicing to live up to, the school system, how the school system taught us, how society is structured. And so we bring that into our relationships and everything else, especially if you are a single, independent woman and you have to survive on your own. Like, you're constantly practicing that. And then when you get in a relationship, most guys are looking for that femininity. But if it's been valued in every other area of your life, like, where are you supposed to practice that? And it's beautiful that you have pole dancing, because then you get to practice it there. And I guess the idea is eventually to be able to transition that over, to your relationships. But yeah, it can be tough because we're conditioned to believe, oh, that stuff is weak.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so crazy how that is seen that way too. So what is the difference for some people that don't know what Tantra yoga is? Because I did have someone message me and they said, oh, isn't that what Sting and his wife do? And so there might be some people that don't really quite know the difference.
Yeah, I mean, Tantra is one of those terms that a lot of people who teach sacred sexuality don't even like to use, because people have so many misconceptions about what it is. I prefer to use it because I'm really big on the spiritual meaning, the overall meaning. So the word breaks down to expansion and liberation. So just like every other spiritual science or practice, it's designed to expand your consciousness and liberate your spirit so that you can connect further with your higher consciousness, the divine God. You want to strengthen that so you can live as divinely as a human as you can. So you're not struggling through life, because you're building your spirit body, your chi body, your pranic body, whatever you want to call it, and you have something kind of guiding you through it. But there's a lot of different lineages of Tantra. You got Buddhist Tantra, you got red, black, you got all these different kinds. But when it comes to what I practice Shakti Pati Tantra Guru Yoga, which is from my teacher. But I also practice Tantra that includes sexual alchemy practices. So that means that I include my sexual center, psychology, physiology, my genitals, all of that is included in my spiritual practices to help me expand and connect with God or heal myself. When I'm trying to become a better spiritual person, my sexuality is included in that practice. And there's lots of practices that's centered around, that part of myself, and kind of weaves in with the rest of who I am as well.
And I love that, because when you don't connect it and include, it's like you're cutting part of your body, your spirit off. It's just not one whole unison piece.
Right. Yeah. Right. What I try to explain to people, and even yogis, like, who learn classical yoga, and I feel like a lot of it is just whitewashed, and so they don't, I don't know, there's this idea of what we have is pure and right and white, right? Yeah. And so what I try to explain to them is, like, if you study consciousness, like, sexuality is also an aspect of consciousness too. Our primal being, our evolutionary force, procreation, like, that's an aspect of consciousness, just like your heart chakra energy and your crown chakra and your, like, it's okay to talk about that stuff, your cellular plexus and your ego. But when it comes to, like, your sexual center, whoa, we don't want to go so far. But that's an aspect of consciousness. And it's also something that God gave to us. We didn't create sex. We didn't create sexual energy. Now we play with it, just like we play with our mind and create things. And we do the same thing with our sexual energy, but it still is a divine aspect of the being that is God's reflection. Yeah. It just is, because we didn't come up with it. So I try to remind people of that constantly. So yeah, if you deny that part of yourself, no matter how you decide to deal with it, you're still denying the whole. And there are ascension practices, and even some Tantra practices, or people that practice Tantra where they avoid, like, the orgasmic, sensual part. But I feel like for most people, that's not realistic, because we live in a world where sex is constantly thrown at us. Yeah. whether it's through advertising, social media, movies, you can't really get away from it unless you're living in a forest or in a mountain somewhere.
Yeah.
So that means you have to address it and authentically in some form or fashion, or you're just lying to yourself about how authentic your connection with God is, because there's still part of you that you don't want to talk about, or not that, it's immature.
Yeah, very much so. I recently saw a video that was saying every morning you should wake up and you should gyrate your hips and circle your hips back and forth over and over again for just 10 minutes every morning when you get up, to wake up your spirit, to wake up your soul. So I'm going to start doing that now.
Yeah, no, I think some people really do.
Yeah.
Some people really do need that more than others. And because we're so stiff, just like circling their hips is like foreign to them. Yeah. I have a Tantra yoga class, and I always try to make sure we do cat cows, where you're on your hands and knees and you're arching your back and, pressing the belly out towards the floor. But I'm like, okay, now that we're in this position, let's roll our hips. And it's literally like robots. They're like, isolating that movement is so odd. It's like there's a huge disconnect there. Yeah. So yeah, I think some people really need to practice just rolling their hips, and it's healthier for your hips. Your hips are designed to move in a fluid motion. And if not, you might need a hip replacement later.
True. And that's one of the things I do in my warm up with my pole dancing girls. And so many people get very shy or giggle or just don't want to move the hips. And it's like, come on, like loosen up, like just have fun with it. Like, this is your being. This is your body. This is where, you have pleasure, where you create babies. This is, the center of you.
Right. And isn't it amazing how, sacredness and being a very disciplined adult is somehow connected to, or a lot of people connected to, how much we deny ourselves of sexual energy or pleasure or desires. Like, the more you can stay away from this stuff, the better the person you are. Yeah. But that's not the case. The joys and pleasures of life are kind of what continue to make us want to do good. Like, if there's no reward, positive reward for the struggle of today, and if you look at the world today, we need some fun, pleasurable, desirable things in our lives to survive it, So denying yourself of your natural pleasures and urges, it does not mean you're a more spiritual person, and people need to understand that.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge statement that you said. Is it's so important to just really embrace your true being and not be disconnecting yourself, disconnecting your body. And it's a whole spiritual journey, mind, body, spirit. And somewhere along the line, as we got older, we somehow put these restrictions on us, and it doesn't make sense why or where it came from.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it came from the fact that we didn't have teachings to help us learn how to be civil with our sexual energy, because it is a primal energy. And so if you don't have practices, if you take the practices away from making it sacred or giving it some kind of spiritual context beyond just having children, then it can literally lock you into patterns that are reckless and not healthy for you.
That's true.
The way to correct that is to not completely deny it, because what happens is you have all these people that are acting like they have the facade of being holy in Christ, like, or whatever you want to call it, and then they're raping children, or they're molesting people, or they are beating their wives, like that. That's not Christ-like or
healthy,
pure, so there's still issues there. And so we have to address this, like a lot of times the sexual energy is represented with the snake, the snake energy. Snakes are not easy to tame. You have to be pure hearted, and you have to have good intentions, and you have to have a certain amount of discipline to try to, to work with it. Yeah. But it's, as a maturing spiritual human being, like, you need to understand, and you need to work with it. And there's a lot of knowledge in that kind of evolutionary primal energy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. What have you done to kind of push through and keep your voice when people are judgmental?
I think I've been blessed to have more people that are supportive than not. I think I've had moments where I've broken down, but I guess I'm also very resilient. I'm a Black woman and I don't come from weak people. And also, like, when you know something, you just know it. And what I realize is that a lot of people just have not had the experiences that I've had. Although I talk about sexuality and I might seem like really like flamboyant to some, I grew up as a really devout Christian. I can't really say I'm that anymore, but because I practice something that feels more inclusive now. But I don't have it, like I don't anybody's Christian, I don't have a problem with them. But I just said that to say that I've always been very devout to God, devotion. And so the things that I've learned, I've never lost that. So if I felt like I was doing something wrong, then it could be easy for someone to say, oh, you're gross and wrong and da da da. But I've done the studies. I've also had the experiences. I've gotten closer to the divine, and I have fruits that show that I'm growing, not just money or things, because Lord knows I'm still working on that. But my health, my mental stamina, my wisdom, the people that I'm helping, like those are all fruits of the spirit, learning to be patient, understanding what love is and being more kind. I'm not nearly as judgmental as I used to be. Like those are fruits of the spirit. And that's how I know that I'm still doing God's work. And so, you can say whatever you want to say. I'll debate you all day, like whatever. Like, and a lot of times these people that try to, you can tell they just are very narrow-minded. They have not been exposed. There's a lot of stuff that they just don't know. There's not many people that have tried to say stuff about me that I'm like intimidated by, or they've thrown some scripture at me that I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm wrong. Like usually they're very, I hate to say it, but ignorant people.
And it's true. There's so many people that are just not aware and not educated enough and not informed enough.
Yeah, unaware and uneducated.
Yes. And I love the fact and have so much respect for you that you are just driven by your purpose and you know that you're meant to do this and you are staying strong to your voice and really making an impact, helping others.
Yeah, I think that if I didn't feel like I was doing something that helped people and if I wasn't doing something that was beyond just like my own, excitement and pleasure, that it would be hard for me I would get bored with it, so it's challenging, but I guess that goes to show that, maybe I'm a really strong person and, and that I was given everything that I needed to survive this. Because if we were given anything too easy in our lives and our journey, then we wouldn't grow much. So all of us individually are given, our path was given to us and our purpose was given to us for our own growth. So, so that's what it's shown me. And if it wasn't easy and if it wasn't needed and God did need me to do it, I think that I would get bored with it very quickly. Yeah.
It's so crazy because I just had a conversation recently with someone and we were talking about how some of the most beautiful individuals and beings come from really hard, challenging, difficult lives. And they have so much to give others and so much to shine onto others and bring, light out of others too and help them shine.
Yeah, I try to explain that to people a lot too. I was like, you don't get the LeBron James of the world. I'm not saying he's perfect in every way, but the type of athlete he's been, or, any of these people who've done anything super extraordinary usually didn't have a really easy way of getting there now, Yeah, it's some most of the time, if they're really inspirational. Now you do have some reality stars and stuff where I'm like, okay, but when it comes to really like doing something extremely inspiring, usually they had a heroic journey, and we're all on our kind of hero's journey, So it's about the story, right? It's about the story. Yeah,
I love that. That is so beautiful. It's about the story, and everyone has a heroic story, and to just know that, if you're struggling, if you're having a difficult time, if you don't see a light, that things can turn around. You just have to really stay focused, believe in yourself, and know that it will pass.
Yeah. And your sexuality is is the same way. I always try to let people know that the things that apply to the rest of your life can also apply to your sexuality. Like, you don't have to neglect that part of yourself and think that it's something really scary. You want to care for your genitals and consider them a sacred part of yourself, just like you would any other part of your body. If you're having anxiety or a hard time with stress, that's going to affect your sex life. If you don't like your job, or the relationship you're in is not that great, that's going to affect your sexual energy and your self life, your sex life. And so how you feel about yourself sexually, whether it's, a physical thing, emotional thing, or spiritual thing, it really can affect the rest of your life. So to try to really make sure that that there's hope, like you were saying, and there's practices that you can do, just like you practice on any other part of your body. Like, you don't have to leave it out, and it's important that you don't. A lot of people wait till they want to perform in the bedroom, or they find somebody they really like, or they have fertility issues, or their hormones are going crazy, or they have something really traumatic that happens, and then they want to, oh, okay, let me see what's going on down there, But you don't have to neglect yourself until something goes wrong. You wouldn't want somebody to do that to you in a relationship. So you don't want to do that to that part of yourself.
That's true. That's such a good point. What tip would you give someone that is having anxiety or having a hard time getting over their exes, or had a trauma, or life is just really hard right now, and they are having a hard time just releasing everything and just being in that moment, either with themselves or with a partner?
I know that's a good question, because a lot of people, I was interviewing someone the other day, and he's practicing celibacy, and he was saying how a lot of us are forced to practice celibacy or be with ourselves, and we're learning that, man, it's hard to be with ourselves, or we're going through breakups and we're quarantined, and but it's a good time to practice self-care and all of the things that you have been neglecting, that you were looking from your ex, or looking from your parents either, or your friends that you didn't get. You can make that list and think of activities or things that you can do to provide those things for yourself. So if you didn't feel like you got enough love, or someone didn't laugh enough with you, or someone didn't take you out enough, or you wanted someone to caress you in the bedroom, and, whatever it is, think of practices where you can actually do it for yourself. And it might take some creativity, but you can do it. It might mean, like, if you haven't laughed enough, watch some comedy skits, invite some people over that you can. Play some board games or something. Do some things that help make you laugh. If you practice self-pleasure, you can get some guided self-pleasure practices, a book, and set the mood for yourself, and caress yourself, bathe yourself, really intentionally, think about cultivating a pleasurable space of what you would like your next sexual experience to be like. If you haven't showed yourself love, self-massage, go, if you can, go to a spa, or, stuff, or book a massage, things that would make you really feel good. And as you start to cultivate that type of energy within self, you'll align, with other people that will, make you recognize, oh yeah, that felt good when I did it. This feels good with you because I recognize this feeling. But you can't continue to kind of do the same things and expect something different from other people, because you just become off too needy, and people will run for you or take advantage of you.
That's true. That's such great advice, to make a list and make notes of what things that you're missing, neglected, or craving, and then fulfill it.
Yeah. And sometimes people will find, they're like, dang, I was expecting a lot, from other people, and I'm not even doing this for myself. So that can be extremely overwhelming when you're in relationships or you're by yourself. And I'm like, I want this, 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 this. And it's like, people barely doing that for themselves. And then you want them to do it for you and themselves. Like, you got to do a lot of that for yourself.
True.
Mhm,
Very good point. I love that.
mhm.
So what future things do you have coming up for you?
Okay, so I've got a class this evening, Tantra yoga class, but I have a sex doula training this weekend, which registration's closed on that. We'll have another one probably either late summer or early fall. And the sex doula training is when I work to kind of train other women to do what I do, and I do it in combination with a woman, Tracy Collins, who was in midwifery for about 20 years. And she trains doula. So what we did is we combined her expertise with, my Tantra and yoga background. So I have that. And then I have a men's virtual sacred sexuality retreat that will be coming soon in February. And I've got, a Safism workshop. So Safism is I think it's a tantric term. It's an Indian term that is derived from a time of like sister wives, but not necessarily sister wives, but like Shaktis that used to grow up together and they formed romantic relationships among each other, but it's not lesbianism and it's not homosexuality. It's more a romantic kind of experience in sisterhoods. And I kind of explain what that is because a lot of people ask me if I'm bi. I'm not. I like romantic experiences with women from time to time.
Okay.
and it's more than just a physical thing. It's more of like nurturing each other's essence type of thing. And I think there's a lot of women that fall into that category. Like a bisexual experience does not replace a heterosexual relationship for them. Yeah. But they sense like in the right moment, in the right time, having a sister there, a friend there, where it goes beyond just platonic, even if it's just for the night or just every now and then, just makes them feel better about their body. It's like you get the opportunity to be nurtured by your own femininity outside of yourself. So we had one of those workshops. We have another one coming up on the 25th of February. And then I've got a couple other things I'm working on, but those are the
So exciting. So many good things happening. And I will have all your information posted. So once this goes up on our page, people can find you on there and see your information.
Great. Yeah.
Was there anyone that you wanted to do a special shout out to?
Shout out. Oh, nobody's ever asked me that before. Not really. In my Instagram fam, whoever watches this, I don't know who would be watching this. But thank you for the opportunity to come on. This was a lot of fun. Yeah.
It was so much fun and such a pleasure. One more thing. What is it that you want to be remembered for?
I hope I'm just remembered as someone who helped people heal their feminine divine, and not just in the aspect of being sensual, but in the aspect of like understanding the deepest parts of their sexuality and their spirituality. So where there's no disconnect, there's no more, well, how can I like something that feels so good, but that's wrong? This kind of like conflict within each other. And allowing and also helping people to connect that to their intuition and being able to adapt to all these crazy circumstances that are going on in the world. Because the feminine divine is not just a sensual aspect of consciousness, it's also like your inner knowing and being able to be creative. And during this time, we really need that, where there's constant information and things are constantly changing. You need to be able to listen to your own inner voice. You need to be able to trust yourself. You don't need to be fighting against yourself. You need to feel whole. And I just want to be a person that is remembered in helping people heal and awaken their feminine divine.
Oh, and you already are. You're such a huge inspiration. You are just such a strong, beautiful ray of light. And you are just showing that it's okay to embrace your sexuality. It's okay to embrace your soul, your spirit, and your being. And you just have such a beautiful energy. It has been so much fun and such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. You as well. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for so much for sharing your story and your journey and just using your platform to help inspire others and make an impact.
Thank you. I will try. I'll keep the fight going. Just because
Yes.
you told me that.
Oh, so much love. And I am going to take your notes and I'm going to actually make notes for myself of things that I'm missing. And I'm going to go down and I'll be thinking of you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm excited for you. I feel like I need to do that too. I
Yes.
can do it randomly, but I think that's something we could all practice every now and then because things are like always changing, right? So we need different things at different times. So
Yes.
yeah. Mhm.
Yes. I love that so much. Thank you so much for illuminating the world with your presence. It has been such an honor.
Thank you. Namaste.
Yes. Namaste. Thank you so much, love. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hello, Christopher. Thank you, guys, for watching Live with Jacqueline Valdez, illuminating the world one voice at a time. Lots of love and light, guys. Thank you.